Hello, welcome to the third part of the Big Picture Story Bible, which we've been reading, and today we're on, as we say, part 3, and life outside the garden. Do you remember why God's people had to leave God's place? Do you remember God drove Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden because they had rejected him as king? Do you remember what they did? God had said not to eat from the particular tree, and Adam and Eve doubted God's word, and then they disobeyed him by eating the fruit, and so they were driven out of the Garden of Eden. And everything God had warned them about disobeying his word came true. Adam and Eve were separated from God, and they began having difficulty with each other. Raising children was hard. Finding food was even harder. And their coming death was now beginning to make their bodies grow older. Life outside the garden was terrible. Now Adam and Eve ruled the world in evil ways, and they had children who did just the same. Their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren all turned away from God. Outside the garden, everyone doubted how good God was. Outside the garden, everyone disobeyed God's word. Outside the garden, everyone ruled the world in evil ways. That made God very sad. All the peoples of the earth had rejected him as king. And so God decided to judge all the peoples of the earth. He decided to send a big flood on the place he had made. But there was one man named Noah who listened to God. Here's Noah here. And God told Noah to build a great big boat. God told Noah to put many animals on the boat. And God told Noah to bring his own family onto the boat. And Noah did what God said. Then God judged the world. God sent a big flood of water, and everything that lived on the land died. But Noah and his family and the animals on the boat were saved. And do you know what the flood teaches us? It teaches us that God will judge every single person who rejects him as king. And do you know what God's judgment teaches us? It teaches us that every single person needs God's blessing. And guess what? God promised to do just that. God promised to bless all the peoples of the earth again. And that's what we're going to read about next time in part 4. Well, thanks for joining us again for part 3, and we look forward to seeing you next week for part 4.